So, because you are actually in a webinar about online presentations, I believe that you are the type of person and you're the type of speaker that wants to improve and wants to make better online presentations. For those of you actually who do not know me, my name is Eva. I'm part of 356 Labs. We are a presentation agency, and many people ask me what I do. Well, I like to say that I do a little bit of everything, but primarily what I do is that I do trainings and I work with clients on our projects when it comes to presentation development, but I also do one-on-one consulting. In terms of what we do, I'm not going to talk about this now because I want to spend the next, let's say, 30 to 40 minutes to give you a lot of insights and useful tips on how to make good online presentations. But if you want to learn what we do, how we do it, whatever it's interesting to you, feel free to just shoot me an email after the webinar, or you can just write on any of our, I think we're on any social media platform that it's out there, so you can just drop your message there. Hi from Austin, usually in the form of PowerPoints that have been recorded just with a voiceover. Okay, that's an interesting one. The reason why I actually decided to make this webinar at the beginning of this year is the following. So we are doing a lot of trainings with different companies and different people. It might be executive, senior management, or just regular employees, but it turns out that everyone is presenting, and not just presenting online, but moving their face-to-face presentations from face-to-face to online. So if they used to go and meet with a client, now they do online demos or they do online presentations, and they're very much faced with the challenge on how can I do this better? Because that's the question that I always get asked. Like they ask me, of course, things on how they can improve their presentations in general, but this one especially starts to pop up a lot, even for me, because we started working with clients from all over the world. So many of the presentations and talks and in general communication that I have with them is not face-to-face, which is a bit sad, but it's virtual one. So I need to make sure that everything that I do and everything that I deliver in an online presentation is as it should be. So when it comes to online presentations, and if we take, for example, my experience, having a lot of clients that are outside of Sofia, Bulgaria, where we are currently based, means that I need to present and I need to speak to a lot of people via some kind of tool. So usually what we use internally is Office 365, meaning that internally with all my colleagues, with the design team, with the marketing people, we talk through Microsoft Teams, which is great, but having in mind that we also have to talk to other people, I always give them the idea that we can do it with a platform that is suitable to them. I would say that there are a lot of tools that everybody is using, but what do you do, and what happens when there is someone who is using something else? Something that you've never even heard before. Like something that happened to me, for example, was we are working with a client that is using a system that I haven't worked before with. So it's called Blue Jeans. And that software, the first time that I had to present with that software, I was like, oh my God, what is this? Because it doesn't, for me at least, it wasn't at all like Teams, or it wasn't like Skype for Business. It was like something that I haven't worked with. But if you know that you're going to be using another tool, first and super important rule, make sure that you download the tool or you just check it online to see, like very, very basic things. How can you mute or unmute yourself? How can you turn on or turn off the video? How can you share screen? Because if you think about it, and I'm sure probably some of you have been in that situation where somebody cannot unmute themselves, or they don't know where is the share button, and they start looking for it, like, where is the share button? Can somebody help me? So in order to avoid that, and what I did actually with that client, and especially with Blue Jeans, I just downloaded the software, checked where is the mute and mute button, because it was a little bit stranger than where it is on the other softwares. So I just checked where are those buttons that I knew that I needed to use for my presentation. And then during the call, I was super comfortable, didn't have any issues with that, which not just gives on the other side the impression that you know what you're doing, but also it gives you the confidence that you're working with a tool that is familiar for you, which also gives you like the chance to do better in your presentation. So first and super important rule, make sure that you know the tool that you're using for your online presentation. And speaking actually about tools, have you been, guys, in a situation where you're asked to share something? Like we talked about the button for screen sharing. So you're asked to share something on your screen. And what happens is the person, like I will do now, is sharing their screen. So people just start looking for the share screen button. That's not really cool. So what you need to do, and it's super easy to do it, just organize one folder with all of the needed documents that you're planning to show during this webinar or during this presentation. So for example, me, what I've done today is that I just picked my files, I went through everything that I wanted to show, and I just put it in one folder, which I simply just pinned to the quick access toolbar, meaning that when I start sharing my screen, I can very easily go and look through the files. You definitely don't need to see what is in my OneDrive folder even. That's simply a distraction for you, because you're going to start and thinking, okay, what does she have in the attachments folder, etc., etc. So you just need to be focused on the topic, which today is online presentations. So if I want to share a file, what I simply do is I just open the presentation that I want to show. By the way, that's a document that I'm showing for the first time. We don't yet have it in our portfolio, but that's a document that we created for a company called Constructive. So it's a document that is being, by the way, sent over email. So that's why it's not as minimalistic as you would expect a presentation to be when it's delivered either live or online. So I can just simply go through my presentation, just show the slides, make sure that I deliver my message, explain when something needs to be explained, etc., etc. So I'm just walking you through this document, which it actually is, that presentation, for you to just see. And then when I'm finished, I just stop sharing the screen and I just close my files, and everything is simple. It's not at all boring, or it's not annoying for the people on the other side. So second highly important rule when it comes to showing files, make sure you organize everything. And another thing that probably you noticed when I shared my screen, I'm going to share it again, because that's something that happens very often, and I've seen it a lot of times, is that right now you see my desktop. Are you one of those people that have 350 icons on their desktop? I'm not, but let's say I'm close to that, because here what I'm doing is that I just keep some files or just some folders that I'm using on a daily basis currently, and that's why they're on my desktop. But another distraction that is, I would say, ridiculous, is when you have that icons on your desktop. So I haven't put mine here by mistake. It's on purpose, just so that I can show you what you can do when you have that, let's call it, problem. So usually what do people do? They just create one more folder, just move all of the other things that they have on their desktop, and they present. Well, there is a much simpler way to do that. What you just need to do is simply click with the right button, go to View, and just untick the Show Desktop Icons folder, the Show Desktop Icons button. Again, View, Show Desktop Icons. Once you're finished with your presentation, you can just bring them back. So it's super easy, but makes a huge difference. So if you think about it, like people are just joining your online presentation and they start looking through the icons, like what do they have on there? What is in those folders? They start thinking about things that they should not be interested in at this point. So always make sure that you clean up your desktop and clean up everything that doesn't need to be seen. It doesn't bring any value to the conversation. Another thing that is super important, because when it comes to the desktop, I'm going to actually share a situation with you that I had, I think, a couple of months ago. So we were doing a training, but it was late in the day, like 5:30 or 6:30 p.m. So we are doing a practice session, and there is this person who is presenting, and he's showing us a demo. So he was showing us something about financial results, etc., etc. And at some point, he's obviously using Viber, not just as a mobile app, but he was using Viber as a desktop app as well. So what happened there was that his wife was texting him on Viber, and he asked him when was he going to come home. So that was a fun situation because he was amongst colleagues, etc., etc. But imagine the time that it happened, that it wasn't exactly a very friendly colleague type situation. So what do you do there? I mean, you cannot turn back time and fix that problem. So very easy fix. What you can do here is just you go to the start menu, you type notifications. The menu is called notifications and actions setting. So you just click there, and what you need to make sure is that your notifications are always off. That would mean that whenever you're sharing screen, it doesn't matter whether it's a slideshow mode or not, every time you're sharing screen, no notifications are going to pop up, which is extremely important. And make sure you never get to those situations like that, that guy that was presenting there, because sometimes it might be funny, but others it might just not look professional. So always make sure that you turn off those notifications. And when it comes to notifications, sometimes we also have to present in a browser, or we have to kind of show, it might be, I don't know, a website, or it might be a dashboard that you have online. So what do you do there? I had a very interesting situation last year. We were picking out a project management system for our team. So I was testing different providers, and one day I asked a couple of them just to make a quick demo for me, just to see how that system would fit our culture and whether it would be useful for us to have. So the person that was on the other side of the call had, I think, like 30 or 40 windows of their Google Chrome opened, and because it was a browser-based application, he was supposed to demo something for me. But what happened was that I was super interested to see what was this person looking for. What is he interested in? He has a website for shoes. What are the shoes that he is liking? I mean, these are the stuff that are going through my head, and I'm trying to focus on the demo, but I cannot. Like, here now I have that open window for the Zoom webinar, but if I go if I open a new tab, you see all of these things here. Like, these are my kind of favorite, let's say, buttons that I have and that I use obviously regularly. So first one is our website, WeTransfer. This is our time tracking system, Harvest, Facebook, LinkedIn, Messenger, YouTube, whatever. And on the top of that, there are my bookmarks. So I have presentation inspiration, 356 Labs, which is my folder for all of the stuff related to 356 Labs, and like very quick links that I'm using on a daily basis. But if you think about it, why do you need to see that? Does that bring any value to you or the presentation that I'm currently delivering? It does not. So very simple fix here. What I can just do is use a guest profile on my Google Chrome. And what happens is that everything is clean, it's smooth. I can show you a website, for example, where you can download free photos. If you don't know that one, feel free to use it. There are amazing photos there. So super easy fix. Or another thing that you can do is you can just use another browser. Just a browser that you're not using on a daily basis, that doesn't have any of your bookmarks or anything that might be related to you personally. Because let's face it, it's simply not super professional to show those things. So In that case, when we show browsers, we might be showing demos in other programs. Well, sometimes, obviously, we have to also present. And here comes another question that very often pops up in people's minds. So they also ask us very often, what should we do when we have to present online? And how do we handle mostly transitions and animations? Because when people come to us for a presentation development project, and when they have very specific needs, one of the like many questions that we ask them is, where is this presentation going to be delivered? Is it a presentation that you're sending over email as a document, so it needs to be self-sufficient? Is it a presentation that needs to be presented, for example, at a conference? Or is it a presentation that needs to be delivered online? Because believe it or not, we are starting to have a lot of clients that are actually presenting online. So one of the things that we need to make sure works well is the transitions and animations. So something that I'm going to show you now, it's actually, I haven't done this before, but I think it's going to be a good idea to do it now. We are currently working on one concept for a presentation that we're building for a client. I cannot yet show the logo and the whole presentation, but more or less it's about, as you will see, ships and how they do their, let's say, daily work. So I will just play it a little bit so that you can see how it goes. There are some smooth things happening currently because we've used here a transition called morph. Probably not that smooth on your end. It's probably lagging a little bit. There are some problems on the ships, etc., etc. What we're trying to do is build faster, smarter, and better solutions for those ships. And again, some things are happening. It's probably lagging on your side and it doesn't look that smooth. So what I wanted to share here, and I'm actually going to go to a little bit, I'm going to go one step further, what I'm trying to say here is that if that's lagging on your side, then probably it's not a great idea to use that strong transitions and animations. So let me go one step further with I'm calling them crazy transitions, because these are the transitions that you should never use, neither for a face-to-face presentation nor for an online one, because let's see what will happen. So first one that I've done, probably it's still running on your site. Let's see the second one. This is one of my favorite ones with the, looks like a beehive. And then this one is for sure you're going to notice. But I'm pretty sure that it's probably going to take, let's say, 10 to 15 seconds until you see the slide in full. So obviously, transitions and animations can be a tricky business here. What can we do, of course? And people ask me, so what can I do? I want to use more. Well, yeah, I know. And sometimes indeed it brings value to the overall presentation. You want to use a cool transition. But if it's an online presentation, just use like the most simple one, like fade, or even use no transition. It wouldn't make much of a difference for the people that are on the call, because after all, what is important is for them to see the slides. If they get annoyed by every transition that you have on your slide, and if they disconnect with the presentation, it doesn't matter what's the design and how cool that presentation is. It just doesn't matter. So use simple transitions, make sure that everything runs smoothly, and that the people on the other end are going to see your presentation in a proper way. And going from also presentation, I just wanted to share something that I believe is highly important for the busy and very loud world that we live today. Many people, and sometimes even when I jump on a call or participate in a conference call, many people are actually joining from coffee houses, restaurants, airports. Sometimes that's unfortunately necessary, but one thing that we always need to remember is to make sure there is silence around. Like right now, I don't know if you know, but we have an office dog. Her name is Zara. She's an amazing dog, but she can be very loud. So what I do now, she's in the other room at the office, just so that I can make sure that I deliver the presentation in a proper way, and I don't have probably a YouTube video of me and a dog jumping or barking somewhere at the back, me being at an important and official webinar. So always make sure that you find a silent room where you can just deliver the presentation in the best possible way. If you're at the office, book a room, or just go to an area where there are no people, if it's an open space, so that it can be quiet and people on the other side can hear you very well. And speaking about a silent room, I assume you remember that video where that professor was giving a talk on, I think it was on BBC, where his children just rushed into the room. I think the whole world has seen that video where it was just just small children walking inside the room. It was very funny and it was super trending all over the place, but really not cool. So this actually brings me to the point about the webcam. It's too funny. Indeed, it's too funny. So when it comes to webcams, apart from trying to have like okay setup behind you, what is super important, and I don't think people are currently exploiting even that opportunity that much, is that usually what happens when you have a webcam turned on. So I'm just going to make a test here. So I'm just going to talk about online presentations, what we do here at 356 Labs when it comes to online presentations, and in general, how we handle difficult situations with presenting online. And what happens if I'm speaking to you like that? You see the difference, right? I mean, you see how different it is when I'm looking literally at the screen and the difference when I'm looking at the camera. Virtual communication can be very challenging and can be quite tough to create an emotional connection with the people on the other side. I consider it recommended to use a camera. This helps you to connect with the people on the other side. And if you're using a camera, make sure that you're looking at the camera and not in your screen, because that gives the other side, like you kind of pay respect to the other side because you talk to them. You don't talk to your screen, you talk to your audience. So it's the same if you think about it with the live presentations. You have an audience and you talk to them. So here it's the same. You should not be talking to your screen. You can talk to the people on the other side. And these are actually, we've shared already a lot of things that I believe are going to be useful for you. So I'm actually going to start with the new stuff that I've found by let's say experience. I'm using usually Microsoft Teams for my calls, and I was having a call with a client. So what happened was that my Teams died. It completely died, and that happened 2 times during that call. It was super embarrassing. I was like, what should I do? I cannot rejoin the call. The person is calling me on the phone already. So it's a totally messed up situation. So what happened there? It didn't go well because of that, because these are just simply things that are more or less distracting you. So what happened is that I learned a tool. It's actually a web-based tool that is called Whereby. So I'm just going to share my screen and show you that tool, because I think it's pretty cool when it comes to saving you from situations like this one. So it's called Whereby. It's a very, very simple tool. What you just need to do is you just register. There is a free version, but there is also a premium one. The free one is for, I think, up to 4 people. So you can have a conf call with up to 4 people. So what I just need to do here is I go to the room. It's probably not going to let me in because I have my mic and camera already into the Zoom webinar. I see there is a question there. So I'm just going to continue without a device. And what happens is that I can just share the link to that meeting room. It's not ideal, I know. It's not like the perfect solution, but it works well. And it works for situations like this one, where your tool for some reason just dropped and it's not working anymore. So that's a tool that you can use, especially for situations like this one. It saves the situation. Another thing that we haven't yet talked about and that we haven't, I believe covered, is how we can make the audience listen to us. That's a question that I get a lot for face-to-face presentations, and it's, I would say, a very expected question. But people usually don't ask that for online presentations, because what is the status quo currently is that you are just sitting in your chair and there is a person on the other side of the line that is talking to you about like different kinds of stuff, and you're supposed to kind of listen, but that's not the case. What happens is, if we don't have the so-called contrasts in our online presentations as well, that might not work that well. So usually in live presentations where we have an audience, what I consult our clients to do is have contrast on the so-called content level, meaning that they can talk about challenges that they've had and the opportunities that they've explored, talking about, let's say, what has been happening during the present time and what can happen in the future. But we also consult them around delivery contrasts. So an example, let's say, of a delivery contrast can be, if you're currently presenting, then you decide to use a video. If you're currently presenting by yourself, you can invite somebody else to join you on the stage. And that's very, very relevant for online presentations as well. And one thing that I was doing actually during this webinar is to use the chat, and I was using the so-called polls. So the polls and the chat are a very, very cool way for you to kind of ask the audience to participate in the talk and just to take part in what's being talked about during your presentation. There are different kinds of polls. You can do like many things. What you just need to do is, again, if we go back to what I was talking in the recap part, the tool, just make sure you know the tool. So there, for example, in Zoom, a lot of people are using, obviously, Zoom. There are tons of options around chats, polls. Use them. Just use them and make sure that your audience is listening to and can participate in that discussion. And also, what you can do is you can just ask a colleague, if there is someone available or someone that can bring value to the topic that you're sharing, just ask a colleague to join you into the conversation. Another contrast that you can do is you can unmute someone from the audience who might want to say something, and someone who might want to add value to the presentation that you're currently delivering. And talking about unmuting someone and their voice and how they sound, another super important thing, especially in online presentations and virtual communication, is the vocal variety in your voice. So some people, I'm a very enthusiastic person first, and I used to be, I was singing when I was little, so I don't have a problem with vocal variety. But a lot of people find it very challenging to achieve that level of vocal variety. So the obvious question here is, what can I do? Are there any exercises, something that I can do so that I can bring like a better vocal variety to the presentations that I deliver? Well, there are exercises that you can do. Again, it's an exercise. It doesn't happen from tomorrow. You just need to put effort into it. But what I always do and what I always ask people to do is, if you have a favorite book, let's say, just pick up your favorite book, mark 2, 3, or 4 sentences, and just read those sentences out loud, but try to emphasize on one specific word first, try to emphasize on another one in the next time, etc., etc. So you try to do that as many times as possible, and you will see that As time goes by, when you're making, let's say, first you're preparing your speech or the story that you want to share, it happens naturally, and you will see a huge progress in how you can put emphasis on specific words. So that's a great exercise. Everyone who is finding it challenging to have a little bit more vocal variety while they're talking, because that's especially important for online presentations. People are mostly hearing your voice. Of course, like the case we have now, they're seeing also your face, but your voice is of great importance to them. So make sure that you practice that and just apply it to your presentations, not just the online ones, but the face-to-face ones as well. And if we speak about voice and vocal variety, I just want to do something that I think it's quite common for at least when I was working in a corporate environment, that seemed to be like the standard case. So usually people are sitting when they are having online presentations. Like what's happening here is now I'm just going to sit on one of our bar chairs, and I'm just going to start talking about online presentations like this. So you see, I think immediately what is happening is that my posture changed. So my shoulders are going down, even though I'm trying to like stand up. It's only my head moving, and my hands eventually, because most of the times your hands are not even moving. And the thing is that my voice actually went down. So if you have an important presentation, and as I mentioned already, finding a silent room is important, try to stand up, because when you're standing up, you're delivering the presentation as you would if it was a face-to-face one, as if it had 100 people, let's say, in front of you. So make sure you stand up, because it totally changes the way you deliver that talk. So for important presentations, always try to find a way to stand up. Usually, if you can't use morph or you cannot use transitions, what I would advise you definitely to do is to make sure you have more slides than you would have if it was a face-to-face presentation. That might sound a little bit strange, but think about it. If something on the screen is changing every, let's say, 15 seconds, people are going to look at that. So make sure that you even split your information on more slides. Please don't present with slide docs in online presentations. People are not into them, not on a face-to-face one, but on an online one, not at all. So make sure you have more slides. And even if you don't have any transitions, just by changing the visual part of your presentation is going to bring a huge difference, because people are going to be looking at the screen, meaning that they're going to be more into what you're presenting. Tips for presenting to executives. What do we do when we start preparing for a presentation? We think about the goal and we think about the audience. So if the audience is executives, and if you, for example, want to have a buy-in for your project, or want to hire someone, or you want to just get even a pay raise sometimes, think about what do these people want. So if we speak about executives don't have time. That's the first and like simple truth. So what you want to do is make sure, and second, by the way, they see the big picture. So don't go into details. Make sure that you put the problem into the bigger picture and go straight to the point. That's an extremely important. What you can do, and probably what, I don't know if you've seen it before, but what you can do is also use one type of presenting that's called conversational presentation. That's possible to do in, I'm actually going to show you one very quickly, one example of that. Let me just find one that I like. So what you can do is use one functionality that's available in PowerPoint 2016 and above. So if you're using Office 365, that's definitely your go-to option. Like that's a presentation that we've done for a company called Combridge. What you see here is actually a dashboard. So this dashboard, what psychologically, if I can say what it does, is you put the person that you're talking to in like they say what they want you to talk about. For example, if I am part of the Combridge team, what I can do here is I can say to the client, hey, so maybe we see each other for the first time, so what do you want to know? And the client might say, well, I want to learn about your market challenges. And you just click here and you start talking about the market challenges. You don't need to go through the previous slides about who is Combridge. And in that case, I can, by the way, share afterwards a video and something that we've done before in that regard, so that you can have a look and see if it would work for you. There are some just practical examples on how it's actually being done on PowerPoint. So that's also an extremely powerful tool that you can use when you present in front of executives. Okay, so before actually wrapping this up, I wanted to say that I hope, and as I saw from the poll, you have already learned something new today. So I don't know if you're having an online presentation today, later today, because I have one. So if you have a presentation online later today, or if it's tomorrow or next week or next month, just think again for this webinar that I just delivered and all of these useful tricks that I just shared, and apply them. I am pretty sure this will make a huge difference for you, and this will bring you a ton of positive feedback. So thank you very much for being here with me today. I hope it was really useful. Thank you again, and make sure that you follow our Facebook, Instagram or LinkedIn page for other upcoming events, because there are a lot of them coming in the next few months. Thank you, and see you again soon. Bye.